how does breath work now relate to success? Like, so you're thinking breath work, right? And we know it releases anxiety and all these things, right? But at your guys' workshop, you did talk about that, and I've seen it in your bio. And you guys at one point were sleeping in your car
100%. Yeah.
to a huge business now.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? And was that before pre-breath? Like, tell me what happened there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so yeah, for us, the moment that we were sleeping in our car was that was like 2019, maybe 2018. And we could barely make ends meet. We can barely pay rent. And because we were trying to start this business. And I think that for us, there was a lot of scarcity that was coming up, just stories from our childhood of like, could we really make it? Can we really be successful? Can we really make money doing this thing that we're doing? Right. And I think that for a lot of us, we have these limiting beliefs, these limitations that we put on ourselves, these stories that we tell ourselves that might be true, but
Hey, if you are liking the show and you want it to keep going, you got to help us by subscribing. It's real easy. Just subscribe right here. Also, comment. I don't care if you hate it. You can comment that you hate it. Comment that you love the show. We just need your engagement to keep it going. Also, if you're on social media, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram at the Geena The Latina Show. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so today's guests are known as the healing couple, Dr. Cory and Jess. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, and the healing couple, okay, so and we're going to get into this, they teach breath work, okay? And breath work, I feel like, is a buzz term sometimes. Like you hear like, oh, have you done breath work? But you don't really know what it is, okay? So we're going to get into all that, and maybe you'll show us some things too. But they're founders of Reset Breathwork. They're known as the go-to secret weapon for entrepreneurs and go-getters to release stress, have more success, as well as unlock more energy. You have personally turned years of anxiety, burnout, depression into deep inner peace through breath work. And you're probably listening is like, how do I get rid of depression, anxiety, all these things through breath work? Like, people don't realize that you can, right? And you guys, I thought, I read this and I was like, is this true? You were sleeping in your car and now you own a multi-six-figure business in just a few short years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a lot. I'm gonna put my phone down now. Breath work. Okay, well, let's start with your guys' story and what is breath work? Just a basic overall, like someone has no clue what breath work is.
Yeah, great question. So, the way I try to think about it is breath work, like you're saying, is a buzzword right now.
Yeah,
like
right?
everybody's saying, I'm a breath work facilitator, which is great, but not all breath work is the same. So I think of it as like an umbrella term. So on one end of the umbrella, there's what are called like pranayama techniques. And so this is stuff you may see on like the Calm app, or there's short practices that really down regulate and calm your nervous system, right? It's something that you can do in the car. It's something that you can do before you go to work. It's a little tune-up. And then there's practices kind of in the middle of the umbrella, a little bit more intense. You probably have heard of Wim Hof before, right?
Yes,
the Iceman,
yes.
you know?
Yes.
Yeah, and so he really pushed a little bit more intense breathwork practices for like 10 to 15 minutes, right? But it's more focused on performance, right? Because he was like running up Mount Everest with his shirt off, right?
Yeah.
Or doing these incredible feats of strength. And so those practices are more about exercise and physiology. And then all the way on the other end of the umbrella is me and Jess.
Okay.
And so that is more focused on long form, conscious, connected breathing techniques to get out of your mind and back into your body, which is what me and Jessica are all about, because we run this race in our mind 24/7 and get caught up in, I think, a lot of what society tells us we need to be, as well as just what our emotions tend to run the show. And people don't know how to get out of that cycle, right?
Yeah.
They don't know how to get out of their anxiety, get out of their depression. And by doing these long form practices, it's a really great way to reset the nervous system.
So I took one of these long form practices, correct? Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna explain it from mine, and then you can explain what's going on.
Yeah.
So if you never gone to a long form breathwork class by the healing couple, it was about. It didn't feel like an hour. Was it an hour? How long was it? It was an hour.
How long did you feel like?
To me, it felt like I was there for 15 minutes probably, and the actual like breathing part of it. How long was it?
Yeah, the breathing part was about 28 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Maybe
so
even
there's parts
less.
before and after.
Yeah, but it was real quick. But you do these, and deep breathing, and we're going to go into that so you can teach me a little better. But all of a sudden, like you hear all these people just releasing, it can be emotions, can be crying, it could be screaming, it could just be laughter, it could be just long exhales. And you literally I want to give a quick shout out to our food sponsor, Cravings Fruit. They're a fruteria in Santee, and they have lots of fruit with chamoy. Today, they brought us some tortas, sandwiches. They even got candied apples. Of course, they have all the green juices, and this, I believe, is a watermelon juice. Shout out to Cravings. Thanks for being our food sponsor. And you literally feel and hear everybody around you and yourself even just releasing whatever in a safe space, correct?
Correct.
Did I describe it well?
Yeah. And what, if you're open to it, like, what did you feel during that? Like,
so, what's interesting is that, so I wasn't like it wasn't like screaming or releasing anything, but I did feel like I got into a deep meditative state really quickly. I definitely felt like I was in the theta brainwave. I felt like a few past loved ones were coming through, and even a recent loved one like came through, like just kind of there, cheerleaders maybe. So I felt just very connected. I guess, if that makes sense. Like I was very connected. And even at the end, when you guys had us like sit up and we still had our eyes closed, because you bring your yoga mat, you make it all comfortable, you had eye mask. I wanted to stay in that, like I was seeing colors like green and purple, and I wanted to stay longer in that like meditative zone. But then, it was time to wake up and go home. It was like 9 p.m. But that's what I felt. Yeah,
that's amazing. And that totally makes sense as far as feeling more connected. And oftentimes that happens is because it's so hard to shut our mind off.
Yeah.
And you're saying like being in a deep meditative state. And that's an interesting thing. Because a lot of people come to us, they're like, breath work, I've tried meditation, but I just can't seem to meditate. I can't seem to just sit still and just be with my mind and all these thoughts. And breath work is a way to bypass all of that. We bypass the conscious thinking mind that's just going all day long, and go deeper to feel more connected to ourselves, to who we are, to our spirit, to our soul.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that's what you experience. And even on like a neurological level, practices like breath work, meditation, it allows us to shut off our prefrontal cortex, right in front of our brain. That's like the decision maker. That's the analyzer, the problem solver, all the choices that we make day to day. That's the prefrontal cortex. So if we can just start to quiet that down, we can freaking shut this mind off,
and that's what breathwork does, right? You're like, could we go through a few, like what you're teaching us, just so someone at home may have no clue what we're talking about. Are they talking about just like breathing, like the three, like the stomach, chest? And that's another thing too. I don't know if I was completely doing that because it seems like it's a lot of work, kind of, right?
We call it breathwork for a reason.
This is not just like breathing, guys. Can you give a little demo to if anyone that's watching? Okay.
Sure. I mean, there's, like Cory said, there's many different forms of breath work. But what we do in these journeys that you experience, Geena, is we open the mouth and we breathe into the belly, then breathe up into the chest and out. Belly, chest, out. Belly, chest, out. And we can even close the eyes. Just do it for a few more rounds. Belly, chest, out. Breathing fully in and fully out. Do one more round. Exhale, let it go and relax. Now we do that lying down with the eyes closed over and over and over
so
again.
right now I feel a little dizzy, right? And that's normal, right?
Right.
And so I feel like I got better since this week because I felt like it was a practice. And then now today I got into it quicker. I feel like the breathing part. So say someone couldn't go to your class or whatever, are those some exercises that they could just do on their own, like in the morning? Or
I mean, I would really recommend starting with just deep belly breathing. That's the most important thing.
And what is that? Give an example.
So, well, I mean, deep belly breathing, essentially, I would recommend lying down on the ground or on the floor, wherever you can get comfortable, putting both hands onto your belly, and then just focusing on breathing in and out through your nose and expanding the belly, like I could say like Santa Claus, right? Like nice and big. And then exhaling out through your nose. And the reason for that is most people are anxious, right? Most people are hyper aware, their nervous system is fried, and they're breathing mostly up in their chest. Short, shallow breathing. And getting into the nervous system, there's two different parts of the nervous system. There's the sympathetic, which is fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
Or action taking, right? Like, I got to get this done. I have to get these podcasts done, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. We need our sympathetic nervous system. But then the other side is parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, relax, recharge. You need both in balance.
Yeah.
And most people tend to be more sympathetic. And so I would say for most people starting out, breathing in and out through the belly is going to be activating more of that parasympathetic nervous system.
So, like, if they're like, should they do that in the morning, night? Does it matter how many minutes? Like, what's a basic 101 if someone's watching this? Like, you know what? I want to try before I take a class. I want to try this at home.
Yeah, so I would recommend with the belly breaths doing anywhere from 50 to 100 per day. Just starting with
Okay.
that. Yeah, and then
Okay.
getting a Calm app. Starting with that. I mean, me and Jessica, we have a lot of things on our website. You can access free breath work. You can do monthly breath work with us. We have our own breath work bundle. So just starting out, doing what you can and noticing the shifts. Because the biggest thing with breath work is it's what's called an intrinsic experience. It's not outside of you.
Yeah.
And so once you start to realize, oh, I can create any sensation, any emotion inside of me, you start to control your life.
Yeah.
You get back in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Rather than being a victim to your emotions, you get to be the victor of them.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's all about. And for, what you experienced with us, this long form reset breath work, this conscious connected breath work, it's just a lot more of that packed into a tighter window.
And it's a really amazing healing experience. If you guys can do it, what's your website again?
Yeah, it's just thehealingcouple.com.
Thehealingcouple.com. And you guys do them here in San Diego, but you do them all over,
Yeah.
right? You have trained how many people across the world?
Almost 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
12 different countries, probably 35 different US states at this point. So it's really cool that there are facilitators that are sharing this work with their own clients, their own communities, and just spreading this healing.
And I loved how you guys talked about, and we'll get into this, how does breath work now relate to success? Like, so you're thinking breath work, right? And we know it releases anxiety and all these things, right? But at your guys' workshop, you did talk about that, and I've seen it in your bio. And you guys at one point were sleeping in your car
100%, yeah.
to hey, you, subscribe right here at the Geena The Latina Show. Subscribe and make sure you follow us on social media, on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram at the Geena The Latina Show. All right, let's get back to it. A huge business now.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? And was that before pre-breath? Like, tell me what happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for us, the moment that we were sleeping in our car was probably that was like 2019, 2018. And we could barely make ends meet. We can barely pay rent. And because we were trying to start this business. And I think that for us, there was a lot of scarcity that was coming up, just stories from our childhood of like, could we really make it? Can we really be successful? Can we really make money doing this thing that we're doing? Right. And I think that for a lot of us, we have these limiting beliefs, these limitations that we put on ourselves, these stories that we tell ourselves that might be true, but chances are they're probably not true, right? And they might not even be our stories, or they're just things that have been passed down that we've learned from society, just learned from other people. And those can run the show. Those can run our whole entire life, or what we think is possible for the amount of money that we can make and the success that we can have. And so it's like, how do we break through that? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you can sit here and tell yourself all day long, well, I'm worthy of more money and I'm worthy of abundance. And, people that we work with, they come to us like, I've done the affirmations, I've done the journaling, and life, it's not much has changed. So what's the shift? And it's like, because you're not actually feeling that. You're saying, your conscious mind knows that you're worthy of more, or knows that you're worthy of love and of a healthy relationship. But for some reason, your nervous system internally, it doesn't align with that. You're not actually believing it and feeling it.
And that's what breathwork does. It helps align that.
Exactly. Because we're shutting off the conscious mind, and we're creating new stories. We're going inside. Right. And connecting to how we really want to feel.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, so if you want to feel more powerful or more abundant, more expansive, more influential, it's got to start from within. We say success is an inside job. Right? We can't look outside of us hoping for the answers and to feel different. I tried to do that for many, many, many years. And it wasn't until I found breathwork that I was like, whoa, like all that other stuff, like everyone else's opinions, all of that, like, that's not me.
Yeah.
It's I get to decide. And that was a really big shifting moment for me, for sure, not relying on outside sources. And so for us, when we were sleeping in our car, I think it was, we had this belief that like, we're going to do this because we decided to come together and we're like, we're going to share the power of breathwork with people. But we had mentors that told us, you can't actually make a living doing this type of work. Healing, spirituality, like wellness, it's too out there. And
Hey, if you are liking the show and you want it to keep going, you got to help us by subscribing. It's real easy. Just subscribe right here. Also, comment. I don't care if you hate it. You can comment that you hate it. Comment that you love the show. We just need your engagement to keep it going. Also, if you're on social media, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram at the Geena The Latina Show. All right, let's get back to it.
It's great to do for fun, but you can't actually make a living.
Yep.
And Cory and I looked at each other and we were like, fuck that.
Like
we're gonna go for it. We're gonna do it. But it wasn't easy, right?
No.
We had to overcome a lot of, like I said, a lot of the scarcity. We didn't grow up with a lot of money. Family members were like, your dad was saying, like, this is like a fad. What are you doing?
Like, because you were a doctor already at this point.
Still am.
I know. I mean, you are. But I'm saying I could see how a parent would be like, wait, you're gonna not do that and do this, right? Like you're a doctor. Why are you doing?
Well, and I think a lot of it was because of what I saw. Like as a physician, like I had a practice in Scottsdale, practice in La Jolla, and did a lot of different modalities. I did stem cells at one point, a lot of rejuvenation. And so I saw a lot of amazing stuff, but there's nothing more incredible than guiding somebody, not being in control, being a doctor, but like guiding somebody towards their own healing. And what's so beautiful about breath work is it can heal you on a physical, emotional, and spiritual state. So like you said, I connected with maybe some of my relatives or some past loved ones, right? In the spiritual realm. You heard a lot of people emoting or crying, or some people were like in pure ecstasy that night.
Like laughing.
Like the most joy they've ever felt in their entire life, right? And then some other people were in real physical pain that night that I don't know if you saw. There was people there that had cancer. There was people with PICC lines. There's people with really severe autoimmune conditions. There were people with arthritis there. And this practice, when you breathe in this way, activating your nervous system, you naturally release endorphins. And so seeing that through the eyes of a physician's lens, even though I don't understand maybe what's happening in the body per se for each and every case, I said, this is a hill worth dying on. This is something I'm willing to stake everything on. Because seeing people take control and heal themselves, that's health. That's medicine.
And I give you a lot of credit because I have some doctor friends, and then they like to call this stuff woo-woo sometimes, right? But a lot of doctors are just, and again, doctors are great, like Western medicine I'm talking about. But sometimes they're like, if I don't understand why, you said I don't understand why, but it works, you believe it. If they don't see why, like scientifically or whatever, then they don't believe it. Even
100%.
though it's funny because I was going to one of my surgeons. I've had a few surgeries, and I was in the hospital one time, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, right? And they did every test, and I was in there for 10 days. And then I told him, I was like, I'm going to go to my spiritual healer. Okay. And this is what she said to do. And finally, by the end now, he's like, you do what you do. I'll do what I do. And together we will get you out of this hospital.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I feel like I made progress with him. I'm like, oh, it only took 10 years, doctor. But no, I appreciate that you and that you guys, that all these people that are open to like this other, that there is this other healing, because, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, is because when I was going through my healing journey and I was really sick, I just wanted to be better. So I was like willing to try anything, and I still am, but I was like, and that's when I started going into all the things. I was like, why has no one told me about all these other things? Like, we've done, meditation and breath work and sound healing and like all these things. And I always say that not everything works for everyone, but like something will work for you. So keep trying it. Right. But I wasn't aware of it. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, to bring out things that maybe someone's watching. It's like, you know what? I haven't been feeling well, or I have anxiety, or I've been depressed, and I've tried these things, but I've never tried breath work. Maybe that is the thing that they need. Right.
Yeah. And then when they're complete with breath work, then they move on to whatever's next in their journey.
Yeah.
It's like, do what works.
Yes.
Do what works for you. Like take initiative as a patient, and don't just be at the behest of your doctor.
Yeah.
Because I see that so much in our families where it's like,
and he is a doctor saying this, by the way.
Yeah. Just believe my doctor. Just take the pill and everything's going to be okay. Right? We live in a pill culture where you literally obfuscate your responsibility for your own health by taking a pill.
Yeah.
I have diabetes. I take a pill. I can still eat my burrito. Right?
Papa George.
Yeah. Where you at?
Where you at? He's like, oh, I'm fine. I took my Narco or whatever. What's that what's called? Narco,
Right.
whatever it's called. Yeah. I
And
don't know.
love them.
Sorry.
Love them. And
yeah.
like people get to make their own choices about their health. But at least for me, I'm like, if you really want to get to the root cause,
Yes.
it's trying everything that is available.
Everything. And it's a lot of things probably. It may not just be breath work, right? It could be breath work with meditation, with eating right, with, people don't realize like the food, like everything. It's not just a pill, right?
Yeah. And you may have tried all these different diets. Maybe it's the eating thing. Maybe you're really trying to like get healthier, get leaner, get more muscle mass, whatever it is. And like you just haven't been able to do it because you haven't felt that motivation and drive, and then you come and do a breathwork class with us, and then the weight falls off like that.
Right. And you didn't even do anything different other than the breathwork class. You didn't like eat less or go work out more or whatever. People don't realize how much emotional, like with weight, like emotional, like is so much. Like I'm reading this book, The Only Diet There Is, I think. And it's nothing about dieting. It's nothing about, but it's about how like, we've fed ourselves all these stories or we've, like difference in there. I'm not done with the book, but supposedly that happens once you write all these affirmations and you start doing all these beliefs that have nothing to do with actual like changing your food or anything like that, that weight just falls off.
It does.
So I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
But I do think that for me, it's just something that the next step. Like I do believe that there's something more with weight than just the food. I mean, that is a big part, obviously.
Totally.
But I think there's so much more to it, our beliefs and, us not, for me, I was reading the book and it's like, I feel like you have to write what is your belief of you not wanting to lose weight? Like, what are you gaining? Like, what are you gaining from it?
Yeah.
What are you gaining from
what are you gaining?
And I'm like, at first I was like, what? Nothing. I'm not gaining anything from it. But then when I sat there and I wrote, I'm not getting attention because I don't want people to look at me. I don't want people to look at my body, and where does that stem from, right? Also, like, I don't want men to look at me and then I think about like, I was sexually abused when I was like a little kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh shit, there is
Chills.
There is something to this.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess I am like, my body is holding this extra 10, 15 pounds. It's not like, but because it keeps me safe.
Yeah.
It keeps men from not looking, even though I don't think subconsciously, like when I first read that question, I was like, nothing, like I'm not getting shit from this, right? But then when I thought about it, I was like, no, and how far it goes back, like, oh shit, I may be keeping this because it's what keeps me safe. Nobody like, so I won't be, even though I won't get sexually abused as an adult, but you know what I mean? Like,
still, but like the mind doesn't know because the conscious mind, like we were talking about, that like spongy part that's on top of the head that we learned about in 8th grade, right? It's the conscious mind. And so its number one job is to be a record keeper of the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you've had those moments, right, when you're talking about being a child, that gets written in your consciousness, like over and over. Like if you imagine you had a journal and like your brain was that journal and you wrote over and over and over and over again how strong that memory would be.
Right.
Even though you're not maybe consciously recalling it, it runs your life.
It does.
Right down to the pounds that you keep around your waist.
Isn't that crazy?
Not
really. No.
Not when you realize
but like,
it.
if you're listening to this, it's like, and when you really go that far, and then now I got the source. How am I going to reprogram
100%.
that? And how am I going to? So then the book had me start doing like, the positive stuff of like, I'll feel healthy. I'll do this, I'll do that. I am safe in my body. I'm okay with people looking at me. I'm okay with men and women giving me compliments. It's all these different things that you're like, oh, dang, I'm only 20 pages in right now. But I do think breath work will help with some of that stuff. So like I'm going, you know what I mean? Breath work releases that, like what to do when you get to the source of the program or to get to the source, correct?
Right. Because there's always something deeper.
Yeah.
Especially for, any physical conditions, there's always something deeper, and it almost always is something emotional, and it's related to stress. I mean, it's about 90 to 95% of medical conditions are due to stress, right?
Isn't that wild to think about?
That's crazy. And
it's insane.
And in America,
and how much are we focusing, like as a culture, as a community, with like resources and education and training on this? None.
It's just like everyone's in a constant state of stress all the time, especially with your phone attached to you all the time. You can always have to be connected. You always have to, do all these things that you don't ever reset.
Yeah.
Reset. That's the name of the
Exactly.
company.
That's why.
Reset.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's just normal.
Yeah.
It's just normalized. And
Yeah.
everyone else around you is doing it. So why would you seek anything different?
Right.
Right.
And for me personally, I mean, when we're talking about like breath work and how it can help on a physical level, and it, like you were saying, it's not just one thing. It might be breath work, and then it's the food,
Right.
and then it's, you know, it's all these other things combined. And for me, my journey started back in 2011. And at that time, I was really stressed, very anxious, not really sleeping very much. And I thought that that's what I needed to do to be successful as a student in college. And so I was just running on anxiety. And I was like, didn't know any different, just completely unaware. And it got to the point where I ended up having grand mal seizures.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, just for context, that's the worst type of seizure that you can have.
Just from stress?
From stress.
Yeah,
Wow.
she was
Yeah.
one seizure away from losing your license and a lot of other severe things happening.
Oh,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so even what you were saying about the, you know, just our culture, Western medicine, just the answer is a pill. I was just put on levetiracetam, and it's like, carry on with your life. There was no talk about my lifestyle and these things that were contributing, no talk about the root cause. It's like, let's identify the root cause and then let's do something about it. There was no conversation around that. And then I started doing breath work in 2011. This was like my junior year of college, and I was starting to feel better. I felt like a fog had lifted. My brain, I've just felt so clear. And I remember going back to my next neurology appointment, and I was excited to share with my neurologist, like, I'm doing breath work, I'm doing meditation, and I feel like it's changing my brain. I feel a lot different. And I was like, could I eventually wean off my medication? Like, I feel like this is really helping. And she just scoffed and laughed at me. Like,
Yep.
Are you crazy? Like, breath work? Are you kidding me? But I continued on and was really consistent with my practice. And eventually, with a combination of breath work, of cannabis, and of hydrogenated water, I've been able to be seizure-free and completely medication-free for over 5 years now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
That's great.
But it was like looking at what's causing this and actually addressing it. And was it fucking hard? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what
So
a lot of people
hard.
think is like, they think it's just going to be easy. Well, they'll try meditation one time, like, I can't do it. And I'm like, well, it's just like anything else. You have to work at it. It's like your
Yes.
spiritual practice is
Yes.
harder than everything else, but it's so much more rewarding too. Like,
Yeah.
I can speak
Yeah.
from experience. And you're
Yeah.
always working on yourself, right?
Always. Yeah. It's not a
Always.
one and done.
But that's
Right.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And yeah, it is really a consistent practice. And yeah, there were so many moments where it was like, it'd be so much easier to just go back to taking a pill twice a day
Yeah.
and just continuing on, like
Yeah.
way easier. And to change like the way that I was eating, that was really hard. But now it's just a lifestyle. Now it's like, it's something I don't even have to think about. It's just who I am. And I feel better than ever. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, I didn't realize how good I could feel. I was
That's the
just
thing.
in this like haze, this fog. And again, because everyone else around me is doing this, so it's just normal.
Mhm.
And I what I've come to realize is that I don't realize how people don't realize how good they can feel,
Yes.
right?
Because you're so
How good
used
you
to
can
not
feel.
feeling well or just feeling subpar.
Exactly.
You don't know how good it is, right?
Right. Right. And that's what we're on a mission to do, is help as many people as we can to like lift them out of that fog and to just see how good you can feel. One of our favorite questions to ask is like, how good can it get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just mess around with that question of like, how good can today get? How good can this date, if I'm, on a date with somebody, how good can this date get? How
Yeah.
good can this week get? And just like see what's possible,
yeah.
So
So, like, do you wake up every day? Because you guys said this in the class too. Like, how good can this day get? Do you like literally say that? Like, is that
Yeah.
something we could do at home? Like, just how good can this day get?
Absolutely.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And then what
Yeah.
do you do? Like, do you imagine it? Like, what basic 101
Well,
to make us have the best day ever?
I would
Yeah.
say actually, like, to really shift your day and your week is to spend at least 45 minutes a week with yourself or your significant partner and do something really unsexy, a check-in.
What do you
Do a
mean?
check-in.
A check-in.
So it can be whatever you want it to be, but it's really about spending those 45 minutes, because that's what's scientifically shown to create transformation. Is, I would say, spend 45 minutes with yourself or a partner and create between 5 and 10 categories of life that you would like to work on. So if weight is one of them, put it down. For us, we have family, we have finances, we have a professional life, we have intimacy, right? And so figure out what your categories are and what you want to shift, and then rate them 1 out of 10 for that past week. And then for the future week, put down, what am I committed to? changing in this area?
Okay.
And what is going to be required in order for me to do that?
Okay.
And doing something like that will kind of open up what you're asking, which is like, how good can life get? Well, you have to at least cast a vision for the next week to even to be able to step into it.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. I think a lot of people go around saying the affirmations, right?
But they feel it.
They don't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to dangle the carrot in front of you a little bit and then go after the carrot.
Yeah. And that's why, so with affirmations, I know a lot of people do them, but I feel like they don't fully do them because they're just writing it down. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because it seems like how do you feel? Because that is an affirmation, what you're doing, what you were talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do you actually make it come into fruition? Because people write it, but they don't know how to make it come into fruition.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, affirmations are fantastic. I mean, what's the alternative? Not doing affirmations?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm not sitting here to poo-poo on affirmations, but the key, especially behind the neurology, is you need an affirmation / specific intention plus an elevated emotion equals a transformed state. That's the equation.
Yeah.
So most people write down the affirmations, but they don't get a elevated emotion. They don't spend time with their nervous system and their body to feel that with the intention to create that transformation. So why breathwork's so powerful, during our breathwork sessions, what did we do? Affirmations.
Yeah, we did.
Right? And maybe there were
Mine
some
was
that
happy
you didn't.
and healthy. I am happy and healthy. That's what I wrote down.
Right.
I love it.
But we'll also have you say affirmations, right?
Yeah.
Repeat affirmations after. And maybe there's even some affirmations that you didn't feel. You're like, not so sure about that one, Dr. Cory, or I don't know. It doesn't matter because we're having you breathe in a very intense pattern, elevated emotional
So
state.
it doesn't matter.
So you're a lot more receptive to the affirmation,
Mm-hmm.
equaling the transformation.
So, okay, so that's in a breathwork class, but say you're at home and you want to do this, like what's an example of like an affirmation, but then making it an emotion to get the result?
Okay, well,
So
I mean, outside of breath work, it could be if you love to dance, put on your favorite dance song, dance your ass off, honey, for 5 to 10 minutes.
So you would say the affirmation, like say...
Or during it.
Or during it, and then
repeating
dance. So you need some kind of emotion with it.
Yes.
You gotta shift your state, right?
Okay,
We've got to put ourselves into a peak state, right? Because we can't just say, I am worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. Oh, God damn it, I'm worthy.
But
like,
you're
why
not acting worthy, you're all sad.
right? It's even just like our body, right?
Yeah,
it's like we've got to move. We got to move the emotions. We say emotions are energy in motion. So we've got to move it. So if it is dancing to your favorite song and like, not just like, oh, I'm kind of like dancing, but like get into it, give it, whatever the thing is, give it 100%.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's going for a walk, it's going for a run, right? But something to shift your state.
Yeah.
That's the key.
I did this one time and it was like the most awkward thing, but it was actually really fun. It was like at the end, like I don't even know what it was, but they had a group of people and they're like, now everybody just get up and dance. And everybody was strangers, like strangers.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, hurry up, get up and dance. And like, I mean, it should be pretty basic, but then it's like, now jump up and down. And then by then I was like going all crazy with all these people and it created like all this joy. And why don't we do that? We could do that at home. Like it was so simple. They literally just put a song on, you know?
I know. Everybody's so worried about what other people think. And if you're even like, I'm not going to do that, then find a movement or like what we call is like a power pose. So you say the affirmation and then you get in a position, like maybe you straighten out your back, you put your hands on your hips, like Superman, Superwoman pose, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of research that's behind that where it even can elevate your hormones by doing that. But like you have to get your body involved with the verbal affirmation in order to find any type of success with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you make it come into fruition.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then with that, it's consistency, right? It's doing it over and over
not
and
just,
over
not
again.
just one time, guys. We gotta do it every day.
So it's like, oh yeah, this feels amazing. And then, tomorrow, then, you just keep doing the same old. It's like, it's staying consistent. And then you're going to look back in a week, 30 days, and you're gonna be like, holy shit, like I feel different. I look different. Things are starting to shift in my life. You're shifting the energy. People are going to start to notice that in your environment. People are going to be like, what's going on with you? What's different? You're going to start to just attract different things and it's going to surprise you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on this really quick because you guys have mentioned, mentioned anxiety and depression. And I feel like in a world of phones and everything, a lot of people have anxiety. A lot of kids have anxiety.
Yeah.
How does breath work or what, is there anything that like I don't know why what's coming to me right now, but I feel like a lot of kids, like a lot of parents, like want to help their kids that have anxiety. Is there like a simple breath technique that they could have their kids do,
Oh
like
yeah.
at home right now, that would
Mhm.
help with anxiety?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's mind blowing to me how many kids have anxiety. Maybe
Oh,
because
I
I didn't
know.
grow up with the phones and stuff.
We
They,
didn't. No.
and
No.
it's created this whole epidemic,
It
right?
has.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
know. It to me, it's scary, and that's also why I'm really excited that breath work is becoming more trendy in the wellness space, and more
Yeah.
people are open to it and talking about it because I think it's so needed more than ever. Years ago, I was working at Stanford University, and by being in the Bay Area, I also worked with some high schools in the area. One of them being Palo Alto High, and unfortunately, at that time, there were a number of suicides that were happening, and I'm like, these are high school students that have everything, and just like the competition was so intense. Like what schools are going to go, you go
College.
to, and like it was so competitive, and so they were so anxious. I was just like, oh my gosh, you're 14, you're 15, like, wow. And so we were bringing breath work and yoga practices to these high schools, and it was just amazing to see them just like be kids again and be
Yeah.
teenagers again. And one practice that can be really helpful, especially for like really young kids, I think like starting, young is
Yeah.
is really great. And we work with a number of moms, and it's what's so beautiful is when they teach their kids breath work, and so that it's just like a part of just their daily rituals, so that their kids, if they're having like a tantrum or something's coming up or they're feeling anxious, they immediately start breathing. How amazing would that be if we just did that from so young? It's
Yeah.
like how we could go through life so much, differently, and deal with challenges, differently. So one practice that's really good is called hand tracing. And so you just have like the kid just put their hand out like a number 5, right? And then they start at the base of their thumb, and they just start to trace their hand. And as they're going up each finger, they're breathing in. So they're inhaling. And then as they come down, exhale. And they inhale, exhale. So you do that, and then you go back, back over. And you can do it as many times, you can do it a couple of times with them. But what's good is that it gives them something to do, because especially when it's like younger kids, it's like to have them to breathe. You might get like 10 seconds in.
Yeah. It gives them like it's like a project kind of. for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're connecting with their body too. And so they're more likely to stay engaged. So that can be really, really supportive.
That's something
for
good
them.
that we can all do at home.
Yeah. And even
Adults
as
can
adults.
do it too.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Adults can do it too. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show and sharing a little bit about breath work. And if anybody wants to take you guys do an array of things. I know you mentioned them, but let's go back over. Where can they find you on Instagram?
Yes, the healing couple _ So Dr. Cory and Jess will pop up.
Okay, and all the things you guys offer, because you guys offer so many things.
Yeah. So it's all on Instagram. It's also at thehealingcouple.com. And I think one of the best ways to dive into a practice like Reset Breathwork that you experience with us on Thursday night is our monthly virtual classes. So people that join us from literally all over the world. So it's so powerful to come together.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know you guys said. So you can just set it up at home, watch it on
Just a
the
Zoom, the computer, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then you get the recording. So then you can do it on your own time too. You could do it every single day if you wanted to, as a consistent practice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll check it out. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.